Second, Karl Menger, the founder of the Austrian school, is traditionally credited with discovering the law of marginal utility in 1871 in his book Principles of Economics. It's not true, though. The law was discovered 27 years earlier by a Spanish Thomist from Catalonia named Jaime Balmes. I explain that in my books. So, the honor of having resolved what was known as the paradox of value belongs to the Spanish. The paradox of value kept all economic thinkers bewildered up until the subjectivist revolution Menger and his successors began, though I've already mentioned that Balmes was the first to resolve the paradox almost 30 years earlier. The impossibility of solving the paradox of value rendered futile all or the vast majority of the contributions made by theorists of the so-called classical school of economics, led by Adam Smith, etc. They already sensed that value was determined by utility, but they were posing the problem as follows. They were saying the value of goods, of means, is determined by their utility, but how is it possible that a precious stone, a diamond or a gold ring, is nevertheless worth much more than a loaf of bread, when iron and bread and water are much more useful than gold and precious stones? It's obvious they're much more useful, right? Classical theorists were disconcerted, and they couldn't solve the paradox of value. All great scientific advancements result not from answering old questions, but from asking new ones, or approaching questions in a different way. With the paradox of value, theorists were posing the question wrong, as if the choice were between all or nothing, as if human beings, in the context of some action, had to decide between giving up all water or all gold. And indeed, if I were in that situation of all or nothing, I would give up all gold rather than die of thirst. But in real life, all or nothing decisions are extremely rare. They're practically non-existent. Decisions, human actions, always involve exchanging a little more for a little less. So, if that's the way it is, we think, how many units of iron or bread or water do I have at my disposal? Well, I have this many. I have so many that any one unit is worth what the last one is worth, which is very little on my value scale. How much gold do I have? Well, very little. I have so little gold that I only satisfy ends that are very high on my value scale. In terms of marginal utility, the last unit, I value the last unit of gold far more, because I have very few units, than the last unit of bread, because I have many. Therefore, the law of marginal utility resolves the paradox of value. The law reveals that classical theorists were looking at the problem wrong. They were approaching it as if decisions or human actions were all or nothing, all gold in exchange for all bread, or nothing. But they're not like that. Decisions involve a little more, a little less. Almost all human actions are incremental, or marginal. Very few are all or nothing. Well, there are a few all or nothing decisions. For example, do I lose my virginity or not? It makes no sense to say, I'll lose a little virginity, 1 unit more, 1 unit less. You either lose it or you don't, ladies and gentlemen. There's also the example of the hero in a trench. I can leave the trench and sacrifice my life, because I know that machine gun nest will kill me, but if I do, I will save my entire company. Do I commit that act of heroism or not? There is no way to commit an act of heroism only slightly. Either I commit the act and they kill me, or I don't commit it. But apart from those extreme cases, in which the law of marginal utility also operates, it's just that the relevant unit is everything, the loss of one's life or the loss of one's virginity. The law also operates in those cases. But the relevant unit is everything. It involves what is called total utility. Apart from those cases, the vast majority of our actions involve a little more or a little less, in exchange for a little more or a little less. And the utility of the last unit on the value scale is what determines the value of each and every one of the relevant and fully interchangeable units of a good at our disposal.